Everyone, Joe Waxman here. And in this video, I want to look at the chart of Joan Jett, singer, rock legend, producer. Guys, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already. Now, in case you're not familiar, I think probably everyone is, but Joan Jett, uh, first, her first introduction, she became a founding member of the Runaways at age 16. And the Runaways were a punky rock band, probably one of the original girl band riot girl punk band type music in the 70s, and they sung the song Cherry Bomb, which is very much punk rock. I mean, Joan Jett kind of has a more metal imagery, but she has a lot of punk rock influences and influenced punk rock, as we'll see. Now, right off the bat, she's got this huge stellium in Virgo. It's in the 8th quadrant, but 9th whole sign house. And that's significant because it's the sign is, you got to realize the sign is trine the ascendant. So even if the quadrant says it's 8th house or 6th house, you got to see if it's in the sign that's trining the ascendant, because that's going to change everything. It's not fully 8th house, and that's good. We wouldn't want it fully 8th house. It's in bringing in 8th house influences, but also 9th house. And the reason for that is that she's on the stage. And if her sun, which is, is pretty trine the ascendant here, I mean, by 4 degrees. And then I left in some of these asteroids just to show you how Virgo in full this stellium is. Anyway, she wouldn't be able to be seen nearly, like her sun would not shine nearly as brightly on stage as a performer if her sun were fully in the 8th house. The 8th house tends to hide things and darken things, right? So for being on stage, you want your sun to be in a prominent house, like angular, especially 1st, 7th, 10th, 1st, 10th, 7th, 4th maybe, but 5th and 9th also is good. And obviously, I mean, 12th actually is not bad, because then you get the alter ego. That's one of the things about the 12th house. 8th house is probably the worst because it hides the light the most, right? The 12th house, there's loss and dissolution, but there's also the ability for the alter ego to come out. It's like the reflection on the surface of the water. That's what happens in the 12th house. That's why you get like a lot of actors, because they're just putting out a character. Politicians too in the 12th house. 8th house is not, it's not the same. The sun gets dimmed by the 8th house. So yeah. Any case, so this is just bringing in 9th house, 8th house, and 9th house influences. 8th house with the heaviness, right? Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, right? She wouldn't be a Blackheart. She wouldn't call her band a Blackheart and be like so, like punk metal, kind of dark and heavy, if it weren't for having some 8th house Plutonic Scorpio influences, right? But first of all, Virgo, and then Capricorn. Right, Capricorn ascendant. She's very earthy. She's very like dry, also very like extremely confident and aggressive if you watch her music. I mean, I was introducing her music. So I love rock and roll, and Hate Myself for Loving You, and she has a few other hits. I can't remember, but it's just, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. She was a record producer. She was also involved in punk rock. She produced the only album for the Germs. They were a punk band, and she had some involvement with Sex Pistols members, and later she helped actually create the punk rock riot girl movement with I can't remember one. I just read it. One of the all female riot girl punk bands. So she's crossing genres from punk to metal. Worked with the Ramones a little bit. The Ramones are kind of in their own class anyway. They're not really, anyway, whatever. Moon in Aquarius, first house. Not in the same sign as the ascendant, but first house nonetheless. And that's always good for for presence, for any planets in the first house is going to strengthen the identity of the person, make them more unique, make them more their own individual person. Jupiter is ruling the second. Jupiter is right here at the top, so voice, very prominent, high in the sky. Ninth quadrant, but 10th whole sign house, right? I mean, her MC is in the 11th whole sign house, so definitely working with groups and networks. A band. First part of the Runaways, then the Blackhearts, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, and also a record producer, and one of the first people to make her own record label. She had her own record label. But here, Neptune and Jupiter. Neptune for the arts, creativity, Jupiter for success, right? It's very prominent. And in Scorpio, that dark theme, that heavy dark theme that Joan Jett, carries very well. The black hair, the leather. And she was, by the way, I just have to say, like, she's gorgeous. Like when she was younger, absolutely beautiful. And that also has to do with Moon in the first house, right? He's very beautiful and very sexual, powerful, aggressive sexuality. That's also a Scorpio MC, right? And Virgo too. Virgo is very, in a tighter, cleaner way. Very can be like. It depends on the other a lot of factors, obviously, but Virgo definitely has its especially for a woman, Virgo, the Virgin, right, has a very strong appeal. And she has Pluto in Virgo, with Pallas as an asteroid, then Venus in Virgo. Venus not so great, but Mercury in Virgo is exalted, right? And so the exalted Mercury is really helping out all these other planets. And then Mercury, Venus, very strong for a musician, Mercury, Venus, or Venus, Mars, sometimes you'll see as well, but the Venus is making this Mercury much more creative, even though Mercury is leading the way in the Virgo. And so she's not super feminine. Obviously, her Mercury is not, her Venus is not in a prominent sign. She's much more mercurial and earthy. Capricorn ascendants tend to have this very kind of austere appearance, very dry, no nonsense, cold and hard. She has that definitely. Saturn is in the 11th quadrant, but 12th whole sign. So 11th, 12th. She always had difficulty with bandmates, actually. Like, so I'm relating this to the 11th house with issues around her, groups and networks. Even with her own band, the Blackhearts, there were so many different members, and she was the only consistent member. All the other members kept quitting, and then she'd get new ones, and then they'd leave, and it was like just a constant, like, switcheroo of bandmates. And I guess same thing in like the Runaways. They were quitting, and they didn't last that long, and they're toured in Japan. I guess they were big in Japan and Europe and whatnot. But that's a great song. They do have that one great song, at least, Cherry Bomb. Saturn. So that's Saturn not in excellent dignity. Saturn in Sagittarius. It's okay. It's not terrible. But yeah, it's considered peregrine, so it doesn't get a good score. So anyway, her friends, her groups, her networks, that's not going to be all that great. Saturn is also square. Yeah, it's Mercury mostly. It's interesting. There's really not that much about her personal life on the Wikipedia page. It's all about her, her various involvement with music, and she did a lot with music. But Saturn square Mercury would probably make expression, communication difficult, and that's really interesting because Mercury is very strong, and it's in a superior position here. So probably it has a more effect on the 11th house. So difficulty with friends and groups, things like that. But it could create conflict with, let's see, Mercury is also ruling 8th house cusp. It's 9th whole sign, 8th house cusp. And 6th whole sign, but 5th. So 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th. Interesting. I don't think she has any kids. Oh, one thing we could say is that like 8th lord in the 8th house is very secretive, and there's always like been rumors about her being gay, but she's never come out and said it. And I don't think there wasn't really much about her personal life. Like I don't think she has any kids or husbands, or so maybe she's just gay and she doesn't want to tell it because she keeps secrets. 8th lord in the 8th house. There's also pretty much this grand trine, although the sun is out of sign, but moon in Aquarius, Mars in Gemini, and then sun at the 29th degree of Virgo, an unstable degree. But it still, shows a strong connection between sun, moon, and Mars. Mars is her MC, so her career. It's in Gemini, so skills with the hands, communication, obviously. All right, so that's strong. And she does have a strong Martian presence, right? She doesn't seem like a woman you want to mess around with, like in a negative way. Like she'd probably beat your butt. Mars is square, and see, here's the thing: when you get a lot of squares, so like trines represent talent and skills, but squares represent the fight, right? And Joan Jett seems like she's a fighter. Mars square Pluto. Now that's not a combination that you want to necessarily mess around with. I mean, a lot of times it'll translate into their career. They're going to put all that tension and work into boosting their career, which she has. I mean, she's been very active. She's not like, obviously, she's not the most successful rock star in the world, but she has been quite successful, and she has like had a few huge hits, right? But obviously there are more, stronger representations of like rock stars who are extremely successful, but she still had quite considerable success and amazing appeal, if you ask me. Like she is just dynamite. Jupiter is square the moon. That's still a contact, I mean, obviously it's a contact. Jupiter square the moon is not great, but like Jupiter and moon together are good. Whenever they connect, that's really good. You get a lot of, it creates a lot of appeal, Jupiter and moon together, in artists, musicians, actors, anyone who's, in the public arena, creative. Jupiter and moon is really good because the moon is the heart, and Jupiter loves the moon. Jupiter's exalted in the moon sign Cancer. So you're connecting the heart and the wisdom when you have Jupiter and moon combinations. And it's really a good combination. It really creates positive effects. And they're both angular, and that's very prominent, right? Jupiter also square Neptune, which would indicate, I mean, and bad aspects to Neptune often indicate, troubles with drugs and alcohol. I have not heard anything negative on that in that regard, as far as indulgence in that. But again, you know, if we take this to be eighth lord in the eighth house keeps their secrets to themselves. So we probably don't know a lot about Joan Jett. That's true. A lot of her secrets are going to be kept hidden from us, right? But you know, this could potentially represent some, you know, drug alcohol influence. Also, an ability for her to, you know, be fooled easily, for her to fool herself, even with Moon square Neptune, Neptune conjunct Jupiter. But it is a very good. And then of course we have the North Node, very prominent, high in the sky. It's in the 10th whole sign house, believe it or not. It's just not conjunct the MC. So, you know, whenever North Node is in the 10th sign, 10th, you know, 10th quadrant or 10th whole sign house, it's going to really pursue the career. It's going to make the person totally obsessed with the career, and they will probably have a very big career because of that. Yeah, they want to be out in the limelight. They want to be out in the public. They want recognition. They want success. They want all of that. And she's just been, you know, she doesn't get these, and it could be because the eighth house influence, she's not as front and center as probably she would like to be, but she stays in the arena and she's always doing work with other bands and playing, you know, she's had tons of minor roles, you could say, in different areas, minor or, you know, major, even if you want to, like, let me just pull up her Wikipedia. I mean, you look at the filmography, discography. She's had a huge career. It's just not as front and center as some other people overall. But I mean, I think she's great. Her early work is so powerful, and she still looks good. I mean, come on, she is. She's a dynamo. Look at that. She's worked with so many different people, because it just goes on and on about like all the different, you know, her ongoing work, as you can see, and other work, and you know. All right. What else? Mars and Gemini, of course, for playing guitar. Gemini's skills of the hands. Mars is very physical, right? Uranus in Leo in the 7th. So, okay, so 7th house, Uranus, you know, Uranus is going to twist things. Uranus is not going to play by the rules. Uranus is just going to do whatever Uranus wants to do, which is anything possible. Like, you know, it's just, you know, screw you. Uranus is punk rock, you know, so it's just like, whenever you see Uranus, I mean, that's one, like, it's also mad scientist, but it's like, just, you know, leave me alone. Like, I don't even give a shit what you think. I'm doing whatever I want. And so, you know, 7th house, I'm not surprised if she is gay, right? Not that, I mean, either way, but Uranus will definitely, you know, Uranus in the 7th house is going to be shocking when in relationships in general, you know. So if you meet her, if you interact with her, she'll probably shock you. She likes to do that. I mean, that's what Uranus in the 7th house indicates. And as far as relationships, they're just going to be completely unorthodox, completely independent. She's not going to want to be tied down. She's not going to want to be, you know, follow any sort of rules. She's going to do what she does. Yeah. And that's admirable. You got to love Uranus. I do anyway. South Node in Aries. So when she's younger, this is 3rd quadrant, but 4th whole sign house. She left home young at 16, started, you know, the Runaways. So very early success, early on, which is interesting because, okay, so South Node in Aries, this is what, 3rd house, I guess you could say 4th whole sign, but 3rd, it feels 3rd to me because of her, she picked up the guitar early on, right? And that's activating Mars in Gemini. So we're getting 2 indications of Gemini, right? Also, Aries is Mars ruled. So initiating, leaving home young, starting a band. She was one of the founding members, that's Mars, initiation. And here Gemini is the guitar, skills of the hands, right? And her voice was not like, she had a fine voice, but it was really about Joan Jett. It was about like, she's an icon, right? She's a creative icon, a musical icon. And I mean, obviously she's not like, her creativity is not off the charts compared to some other artists and musicians. Like I Love Rock and Roll is a cover. It's not that she lacked creativity, but Virgo generally tends not to be the most creative sign. Virgo will actually do excellent in not necessarily copying, but like taking something that where somebody else has done the creative work, and they'll just make it so much better, because Virgo will have that critical. Virgo's the critic, right? And Virgo's the editor. And so Virgo will take a mediocre song and really amp it up to the top notch. And that's what she did, at least with I Love Rock and Roll. And I don't know about her other songs, who wrote them, whatnot. Aquarius moon is going to be very unique, independent, inventive in an intellectual way. And obviously in the first house, is going to add to her looks, her appearance. It adds that feminine, even though she has like this really strong masculine, that's the Capricorn, dry, hard, punk rock, like, especially if you look at the video of I Love Rock and Roll. That's one of the best videos, if you ask me. I love that video. So cool, so hard, but at the same time, the moon in the first house makes her beautiful, right? So this is a draconic chart, and we're just getting like a lot more first house planets here. Whole stellium in Aquarius, Uranus right on the ascendant, brilliant, right? I mean, if you watch any of my video, enough of my videos, you probably know I have Uranus on the ascendant, so I'm very fascinated by it. So, but this is an internal feel, but it has that punk rock element and the super independence, and just like I don't even give a crap what you think. Like, I'm just gonna do whatever I want, and you don't matter. You don't count. Not that you don't matter. You don't count. Your opinion doesn't count. It's completely irrelevant. First house and then second house, Sun in Pisces. So we're getting like a creativity here with the Pisces Sun in the second house, adding to the voice element. Third house, Aries, Jupiter and Neptune, right? Second and third are obvious for musicians, right? Saturn and Taurus, this is out of sign, but that's quite an aggressive combination, Saturn and Mars. And that's pretty much it. This obviously Mars and Scorpio, super prominent, basically conjunct the Neptune Jupiter. But I mean, she feels very Mars and Scorpio to me, like just this heightened sexuality. Like if you look at her videos, like she's like, oh my God, very powerful sexuality. And definitely I feel resonance with the Mars and Scorpio, so high in the sky there. Same sign as the MC, so definitely 10th house influence. Yeah. Pull up her nodes just for fun, why not? Okay, typical Capricorn south node placements. South node Jupiter is in Sagittarius, but it's not making much contact. Moon's not too far from the south node of Neptune, adding a creative element to the moon in Aquarius. Aquarius is very punk rock, by the way. of course. I'm just looking for conjunctions. Uranus square the north node of Neptune, and north node of Venus conjunction here. So that's adding a lot of creativity to this Uranus. North node of Mercury is right in the midst of this Virgo stellium. That's helpful as well. North node is Mercury is exalted in Virgo. And then we're getting some Libra nodes, south node of Mars, north node of Chiron, south node of Mercury, and with the north node, it's just going to add elements to her, career and, session. She's done so many things. So these are just going to be minor influences. And then the south node of Venus to her Jupiter. And that's again adding creativity to this already creative duo of Jupiter and Neptune. And the south node of Uranus to Saturn. And that's, with all the changes that have come throughout her, like what's consistent about her groupings and her networks is that they're restricted and limited, and they change a lot, right? It's just like no, it's like negating all of it. And that's very much Saturn and also Uranus for the change. Saturn for the negation, Uranus for the change. Anyway, just details. That's pretty much it for Joan Jett, guys. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, book a reading with me, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. That's my email. My website is macroastrology.com, and leave a comment if you like. All right, thank you, bye.